You know the ones I'm talking about, right? Those intense weekend seminars that promise to completely change your life. You walk in one person and you walk out feeling on top of the world, unstoppable, powerful, totally transformed. But what is actually going on in there? All right, so let's get right into it because that is the big question. How can just 3 days create such a massive euphoric shift in people and do it so reliably? Well, the answer our sources point to is probably not what you think. It's less about a spiritual awakening and a lot more about a predictable biological process. And look, let's be clear. For the people who go, this feeling is so real. You see it in quotes like this one from a former participant. People describe it as intoxicating, this incredible high where all of a sudden anything feels possible. But, and this is a huge but, here's the paradox. That incredible feeling doesn't come from a weekend of gentle support. No, accounts from inside these seminars paint a picture of intense psychological pressure, with trainers using some pretty brutal, confrontational language designed to tear you down. So yeah, that's the central conflict here, isn't it? This is the transformation promise. How on earth do you get from being told you're disgusting and your life doesn't work to feeling absolutely wonderful? The method seems like the exact opposite of the outcome. And we're not talking about some small niche thing here. These events are part of a huge industry. They're called large group awareness trainings, or LGATs for short. And over the years, millions of people have signed up, all chasing that same incredible promise, a total personal breakthrough delivered in a single weekend. Okay, now this is where things take a really fascinating turn. The research we've looked at suggests that to understand what's going on, you need to look at it through a medical lens. It proposes that this seminar high isn't some unique, magical thing at all. The core idea is this, that incredible, euphoric, empowered state that everyone talks about, it's a dead ringer for a well-documented clinical state, something that psychiatrists and doctors are very, very familiar with. And that state has a name, hypomania. So what is it? Well, clinically, you're looking at a crazy elevated mood, massively inflated self-esteem, a huge surge of energy, and you barely feel the need to sleep. Does any of that sound a little familiar? Just look at this comparison. It's wild. On the left, you've got what people actually say after these seminars. On the right, the textbook symptoms of hypomania. The overlap is just uncanny. The euphoria, the confidence, the boundless energy. I mean, come on, it's practically a one-to-one match. Okay, so if we accept that this seminar high is basically a biological state, it raises a pretty wild question. Could you engineer it? Could you create an environment that's almost guaranteed to induce this state in otherwise healthy people? Well, according to the research, the answer is yes. And it all follows a surprisingly simple recipe. And here it is, the 3-step recipe for inducing hypomania. Step 1, you need intense psychological stress. Step 2, you have to severely disrupt someone's sleep. And step 3, you suddenly, abruptly take all of that stress away. So, the obvious next question is, does this 3-part recipe actually map on to what happens during an LGAT weekend? Well, let's take a look. Because when you line it all up, the blueprint is pretty unmistakable. First up, step 1, intense psychological stress. They call it the pressure cooker for a reason. We're talking about verbal confrontations, really strict and kind of arbitrary rules, and these incredibly charged exercises that push people to confess their deepest traumas in a room packed with strangers. Then you have step 2, severe sleep disruption. These weekends are a total marathon. The sessions run for 15 hours a day, or even longer, 9 a.m. to midnight, 3 days in a row. You add in homework assignments and travel time, and sleep just goes out the window. You're running on fumes. And finally, step 3, the sudden release. After 3 straight days of being exhausted and under pressure, the whole dynamic just flips. The trainer who was tearing you down is now showering you with love and praise. All that tension is gone, replaced by this massive wave of relief, acceptance, and applause. So the recipe seems to fit perfectly, but what are the actual consequences of putting someone through this? Is it a genuine breakthrough, or is it something a lot more complicated? From the inside, for the person experiencing it, the result feels absolutely like a profound breakthrough. They feel lighter, they feel freer, they see the world through this new, incredibly positive lens. The transformation feels completely real and deeply personal. And the satisfaction rates totally reflect that. I mean, look at this. A study cited by one of the biggest LGITs found that 93% of their graduates felt they got practical, lasting value from it. So clearly, whatever is happening, people love it. They feel it works. But we have to go back to that medical parallel. Because if you get the euphoric highs of hypomania, well, you might just get the risks that come along with it too. And one of the biggest risks is impulsivity, poor judgment. And what's really fascinating is that the organizations themselves seem to know this. This is a quote from a participant who said their trainer literally warned them, hey, for the next week, don't make any big, rash decisions because you're going to be feeling unusually empowered. They're basically admitting it. And that warning is there for a reason, because the sources show that in that post-seminar haze, people make huge, sudden decisions. They abruptly end marriages, they quit stable jobs, they make massive, impulsive financial choices, sometimes with some pretty serious fallout. So when you put all the pieces together, what feels like some kind of magical spiritual transformation starts to look a lot more like a predictable, engineered, and maybe even hazardous biological process. The breakthrough isn't a mystery. It's a physiological response to a very specific set of stimuli. And all of this leaves us with a final, really provocative question. If a feeling of profound personal transformation can be manufactured, if you can create it with a formula of stress, sleep deprivation, and sudden relief, what does that tell us about what authentic growth really is? That's definitely something worth thinking about.